Been absolutely tremendous. It's fun to finally meet you. I mean, I feel like we've just been so involved, and the really enthusiastic support has been tremendous. So thanks for setting this up, and thanks everybody for coming this morning. For those who don't know much about me, I'll give you like the 30-second elevator speech. Martha McSally, I'm a retired Air Force colonel. I was a fighter pilot in the Air Force. I served for 26 years in uniform. Air Force Academy distinguished graduate. I have 2 master's degrees, one from Harvard, JFK School of Government in Master's in Public Policy with a focus on international security, and another master's from Air War College where we send our senior leaders, and that master's in strategic studies where I graduated #1 in my class with 225 senior military leaders. I was the first woman in U.S. history to fly in combat in a fighter, and the first woman to command a fighter squadron, also in combat. I have 325 combat hours, a Bronze Star, and 6 air medals. I worked for Senator John Kyle for a year as a major, as a legislative fellow, and got to see up close and personal how things get done or don't get done in D.C., but really saw a great example of someone who's hardworking, brilliant, and man of character who's fighting for the things that we believe in. And that planted a seed in me of, someday maybe I would continue my service in other ways when I'm retired from the military, which is what I'm doing right now. About 10 years ago, I made national news because I took on the Pentagon for making our servicewomen wear Muslim garb whenever they were off base in Saudi Arabia. It's a very long story, but after 6 years of trying to get this policy changed within the military, they actually ordered me there right out of Senator Kyle's office. They then threatened to court-martial me if I didn't put the burqa on as soon as I landed. It was just totally ridiculous, to be honest with you. I complied with the policy, but at the end of my tour, I filed litigation. You don't just wake up in the morning and decide to file McSally versus Rumsfeld. It's not very good for your career. At that point, I had been promoted 2 years ahead of my peers to major and 2 years ahead of my peers to lieutenant colonel. So I was in the top 1% on track to be a senior leader in the Air Force. But my oath of office that I took, and I took very seriously, is only to support and defend the Constitution of the United States as an officer. And I take that seriously. And I learned from the first day I went to the Air Force Academy that to be a leader means to stand up for what's right, regardless of the cost. And we are guardians of the Constitution as officers. And moral courage means standing even if you need to stand alone. So that was always instilled in me, and I never thought I was going to have to actually do it, but I was in that place that I felt like I had to stand. We eventually won. As I filed the lawsuit, I used what I learned on Capitol Hill and said, you know what, there's 3 branches of the government, and the defense bill's coming up this year, and I know how to get legislation passed. So typed up legislation, got sponsors from the House and the Senate on both sides of the aisle, and 10 days later, this bill was voted on unanimously as a freestanding bill on the floor of the House. It's an amazing miracle that'll never happen again, and I won't promise it'll ever happen if I get elected. We tacked it on as an amendment to the defense bill in the Senate, and I shepherded this thing, took military leave, and shepherded this thing to get it signed into law December 2nd, 2002, which was an 8-year battle, start to finish. But I'm an endurance athlete. I've run 14 marathons and 2 Ironman triathlons, to include the one in Hawaii. So it's just a part of my fabric of who I am, that when everybody else gives up, I keep going. And that's what we need right now in Washington, D.C. We need leadership, we need moral courage, we need people who have the energy and experience in order to solve these problems that are facing our nation. You guys wouldn't be out here this morning if you didn't agree. We're at a critical crossroads. Our economy is stagnant. We've got to get it going again. We've got to get our debt under control. We've got to have real health care reform that allows decisions to be made by patients and families and doctors, not by the government. And we have got to secure our border. We've got to deal with a nuclear Iran. We've got to deal with our national interests in the Middle East to exclude protection of our close ally Israel. I mean, we've got a lot of complex issues that we're facing. And Congress, quite frankly, from my view, is failing. And I think you'd all agree because their approval rating is sitting right around 10%. They are not showing moral courage to knuckle down and to try and solve the nation's problems right now. They keep kicking the can. And they are more interested, quite frankly, in the next election instead of the next generation. And we need to stop that. And I'm stepping up to serve again because I believe in the things that made America great. I protected and defended it in uniform, and I'm ready to do it again on Capitol Hill. The oath of office of a member of Congress is the same exact wording as the oath of office of a military officer, which is very interesting. I didn't realize it until I started running. So I just consider this my next assignment in civilian clothes. And I take it very seriously, and I'm ready to step up. So I'll tell you how we're doing on the campaign if you want to know. We're pretty excited. I mean, as you guys know, my opponent is Mr. Ron Barber, who is a staffer of Gabby Giffords, who was elected to serve out her term to be a caretaker and a placeholder to honor her term and to serve it out. Well, that's going to end in January 3rd, when I'm sworn in as the next Congresswoman for CD2 to represent Southern Arizona. We have a very clear contrast between two profiles. We have a contrast between leader and follower, between commander and staffer, between pioneer and bureaucrat. And the people of Southern Arizona are pioneers and leaders, and we elect unique people in Southern Arizona. And those unique people include both sides of the aisle, whether it's Mo Udall, Jim Colby, Gabby Giffords. We elect unique people with unique backgrounds of leadership. And that is just not the profile that Ron Barber gives and brings to those people. So we are looking forward to having him be a short-term congressman. We did a poll August 7th and 8th, and I had not been on television or in anybody's mailboxes or anything since April 17th. And in that poll, we were within 5 points already. And we were just getting going. And the margin of error was like 4.7. So we were game on, neck and neck before we moved out. We went up on TV, I'm losing track of time, it was like 2.5 weeks ago or so. Our second commercial is coming out today. And as of this morning, we were informed that now the DCCC and Nancy Pelosi's PAC is getting involved in this race. They're scared. And they know that his seat is in jeopardy. So they're putting 4,000 points into this race to run ads against me as of this morning. But that's okay. They're going to use their standard talking points Mr. Barber has tried to use so far, which is, since I'm a Republican, I'm against the middle class, I'm trying to throw Brady over the cliff. And as of last week, he also said, the Republican Party is a bunch of white men with big money. As I was sitting right next to him. In an editorial board meeting, I was like, seriously, dude? Are you serious? I mean, like, it's just the typical talking points that are coming out of the National Party he's using against me, and they're not sticking. I mean, here I am, a woman who's a retired military officer who's actually in the middle class, you know, so it's not sticking. So, I mean, he's continuing to go down all the typical talking points, but it's just not going to work. I mean, we're talking about, you know, again, a leader versus a follower. He has voted 89% of the time down the Pelosi line. And the times that he's crossed the aisle, Congressman Schweikert, welcome, thanks for coming. I mean, you know, the party let him cross the aisle because they know he's coming up on election and he needed to look like he was being bipartisan.
We've actually been surprised how far left he's gone in the short time there.
Exactly. He has become a typical politician in Washington, D.C. He talks about civility and he talks about being bipartisan, and he has just completely fallen in line, you know, with his party bosses, and he's only been there just a couple months. His first commercial was about how he saved one woman from having her house foreclosed on, and you know, cut through the red tape while he was working for Gabby Giffords. Well, in the month of August in Pima County, 917 people had their houses foreclosed on. So what are we doing about that? I mean, we got to get our economy going. We got to get people back to work so that they can afford their houses. This is about leadership. This is about defining what the agenda is. This is about moving us forward. He just doesn't bring that. So I really appreciate you guys coming out. We're doing good. You know, the momentum is all ours, quite frankly. I mean, there's not